So the Calgary Police Service is currently actively working with Calgary home builders to reduce the number of incidents of break and enter, vandalism and thefts from new homes in and around the Calgary area. Throughout the past year, over 239 newly built residential homes have been broken into by vandals just prior to homeowner possession. The resulting damages are not only costly to builders, but have a resounding impact on new homeowners whose possession dates must sometimes be pushed back to allow for repairs to be made, often leaving them homeless. Beyond the theft of tools and appliances, vandals have gone to the extent of stuffing drains and turning all the taps on in residences, leaving them to flood, newly installed flooring and soaking drywall. Acts of vandalism, theft and break and enter are criminal acts and will be investigated and charges pursued. We're appealing for anyone who sees suspicious activity in their neighbourhood around homes under construction to contact the police or Crime Stoppers. We're specifically asking for people to watch for the following: any suspicious persons or vehicles who may be about at odd times. Most contractors are prohibited from working between the hours of 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Any large box-style trucks pulling up after normal working hours should also be considered suspicious. Any appliances seen leaving homes during daytime hours. Brand new appliances being sold online or through other means without proof of purchase or warranty may be the product of a theft. And any workers should be able to provide proof of employment, such as a business card, if requested. I'll now hand over to Trevor Klein from Jamin Homes to speak about things from their perspective.
Hi, I'm Trevor Klein, Trevor-Klein. I'm the safety auditor for Jamin Homes, which constitutes Jamin Homes, Masterbuilt, Innovations, and Modus Multifamily Division. This is a very sad reality to what we do for business. We are in the business of building a home for people, not a house, but a home, a dream. And when we have these issues happen, it affects the dream of our homeowners. And as an industry, we find this to be not only heartbreaking, as we do put ourselves in the place of our homeowners, but frustrating because we have the lack of answers. So we've reached out to the industry as a company, and we're providing information such as resources, intelligence, sharing pictures of things that just don't seem right. Jamin tracks all of our appliances. We have ways to record people when they come into our sites now, only so that we can try to deter this and make our neighborhoods an unfriendly place for people to be and be able to build those dreams for our homeowners. When we're done building, it's more than just we're done, here are the houses. We want to hand over a safe community to our homeowners. And that's an industry. That's not just us as an individual company. As an industry, we have the responsibility to those who buy from us, and we take that responsibility seriously. Unfortunately, we had one of our homeowners affected by the fellow who decided to block the drains and that flooded out his home. So, Calvin.
My name is Calvin Yip. My sister is Maylene. In the spring of last year, we decided to build a home. For me, it was my first home. My sister Maylene recently separated, so we thought it'd be a good time to buy. We were looking at a possession date for September 30th this year. A week before that date, my sister got a phone call. A phone call no one wants to hear. And we were told by the VP our house is vandalized. Touching on what Trevor said, our house is flooded. For me, it was really difficult. It was my first home. If you ask my friends and family, all I've ever wanted to do was to own a home. So it was kind of heartbreaking to hear that something that bad has happened to it already. At the time, my sister and I, we were still renting. We were scheduled to move out the end of the month because new tenants were coming in. So when we got that phone call, we were kind of stuck. Jamin acted very quickly, actually. They found us a place to live within the next 2 to 3 days. For the damage, we were told that it could take 4 to 8 weeks for a house to prepare. It's very different. My sister, she has 2 little girls. So at the time, it was really hard. What do you plan for? Or do you take some of their stuff? Do you take all their stuff? What do you do? So for that, it was very heartbreaking. I think it took about 4 to 5 weeks for them to repair it, and we moved in at the beginning of November. And again, Jamin acted very quickly on that, and we are thankful for that. And today we're just asking the public to look out for things like this so it doesn't happen to them. For a first-time home buyer, again, you don't want to hear that. For me, it's hard to move into a home when it's wrecked. So that's my story. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'm wondering how it made you feel when you got that phone call. What went through your mind?
Well, I was actually at work that day, and the next day, Maylene and I were supposed to go do our walkthrough. So I was telling all my friends and family about it at work. I couldn't stop talking about it, and I was in a meeting, so I checked my phone right after, and I got a voicemail from my sister, and she sounded pretty upset. So I gave her a call right after, and she told me what happened. Immediately right after that, I left work. And we actually went to the house to look at it, and it's something you don't want to see ever in any home if you're living in it or anything like that. So it's a feeling I never want to feel again, or I don't want anyone else to feel it.
What was the extent of the damages to the house?
Well, you know what? We walked in there. The main floor was flooded, so they had to take out the laminate floor, the cabinets. Luckily, the appliances weren't installed yet, so that we saved some time there. We were fortunate enough that we did not renovate the basement. It probably would have taken a lot more time to repair it. So again, it was pretty bad.
Do you have a price, the cost?
I don't have a price.
Is that something that's picked up by your insurance, health insurance, or is that?
Maylene and I, we never took possession yet. So again, we were fortunate there. However, it could happen to someone where they move in that same day and it happens. And again, we don't know how it could happen that way, right? So I want them to be alert.
Did you learn a little bit more about this this is kind of a broader issue? Have you talked to anybody else that's come in a similar situation, or have you been hearing from others?
No, I haven't.
So you were going to live in the house with your sister and her 2 kids, right?
Yes.
Which community was this? Is this affected you guys? Have you noticed any trends as far as communities go?
It did happen in Auburn Bay.
Sarah, would you like to address that?
Yeah, I can speak to that.
So I think it's important to indicate that this is a citywide problem. It's not particularly specific to any one community. Obviously, in this instance, Auburn Bay was affected, but Auburn Bay is one of many, as we know, growing communities throughout our city. So it's endemic to those communities.
Do you think that there's a link between all of these cases? Like, are you working with the same people, or are they completely separate?
I think at this point it's very hard to say, which is why we're appealing for information to try and help us determine that. I'm sure in many of the cases that there will be links, but we need some intelligence to help us progress that.
Can you tell the difference between when there's a vandalism and when there's a theft? And do you bunch them together with that couple of 200 or 200 and some instances? Is that all theft, half vandalism?
So that number comprises the various issues that we've experienced. So vandalism is for sure a part of that, but also the theft of appliances and the break and enters. So that number encompasses sort of 4 different main MOs that we have seen over the last year.
Constable, perhaps you can contextualize this. Like, why now? Why are we here today talking about this now? Is this something where you're seeing an increasing trend this year versus past years? And also, I'm curious, how does this link into to the city's building boom as well in terms of numbers?
Okay, well, to answer your question, why now? I think what's significant about here and now is that collaboration between the Calgary Police Service and the building industry is nothing new. But what is new is that the building industry has really stepped up to the plate in recognising that tackling crimes of this nature is just not a police responsibility. And they are now putting in a lot of time, effort and resources to help us tackle this problem.
But is it worse this year than it's been in past years?
It's certainly increasing year on year, that's fair to say. But I think, again, we need to put that into perspective by recognising that the city is growing at an enormous rate.
For people who are caught, what's the consequence for specifically vandalism in the case of Calvin's house?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What's the consequence for people who are caught vandalizing homes?
Well, as I said, if we catch people, then they will be dealt with within the bounds of the law.
Is there own security at these sites? And I'm kind of curious also, what are you doing specifically in terms of working with builders in terms of to address this?
So the areas, to answer your question, the building industry is employing security to assist us. We also, as a service, routinely, actively patrol these areas. And then behind the scenes, there's a lot of technical and technological advances that both the building industry and Calgary Police Service are employing to try and detect and prevent these crimes from happening.
Has it been difficult to find these 230 some odd people responsible for these acts of vandalism? I mean, how has the success rate been in finding the people responsible?
Well, that's why we're here today, because there's no doubt about it that we need more information to help us more routinely catch the criminals that are responsible for these acts of vandalism and theft.
Have any criminals been caught in those cases?
I can only speak for the southeast communities for which I'm responsible, and to date, no, which is why we're here today.
Are you actually meeting with on a regular basis with things like purchasing managers from these different companies, or is there a lot of more information sharing going on?
Absolutely, and that's what's unique about the situation now that we perhaps didn't have before, because there's far greater information sharing and collaboration happening between us as a service and the building industry than was ever happening before.
What happens to these items once they're stolen, whatever the appliances and stuff, once they're taken from the houses?
Well, that's what we would like to know, and again, that's what we're appealing for today, is those appliances are going somewhere, and somebody somewhere knows exactly what is happening to those. So we would like to appeal to the public to provide that information, and they can do so either direct through the Calgary Police Service or via Crime Stoppers.
You know, on one end of the spectrum, you get people that are turning on taps, for example, and that's, you know, it's obviously vandalism. I'm curious, as an investigator on the other end of the spectrum, how sophisticated are you seeing in terms of some of the thefts and different things that are going on in these communities? Like, does it speak to rings? Does it speak to a very sophisticated kind of group that knows what they're doing?
And that really is hard for me to say or determine at this time. And again, that's why we're appealing for information.
Trevor, what kind of added security measure? You talked about your crews are being told to have added security in place, or what kind of, items have you done to kind of stop this growing trend?
To stop the growing trend is difficult to do. It's getting involvement from the industry as a whole. Certain things that Jamin has applied, we have to, I hope you understand, keep within ourselves and within the Calgary Police Service. But we do, straight answer would be we track all of our appliances. We have awareness. Our trades, these are people who are very prideful of the work they do, and this hurts them. They build a home and then they find out that home is vandalized or broken into. This actually, they physically take a blow from this. They don't want this to happen themselves, so they're reporting to us. It's all about awareness, it's all about communication, and that's why we're here, to bring that awareness out to the public as well, that this does affect people on a broad spectrum.
How would say, as me as a member of Joe Public, know that your crew is a member of Jamin? Are they marked vehicles, or do they have identification on them? Or
Builders as a whole mark all their vehicles that are in the field, and not just Jamin. All of my employees have Jamin uniforms on, and that goes across the board for our industry, is we do mark our employees. If you ask, are you employed by this company, they have to provide you information. You have that right as a public to know who's in your community.
You were asking just about the cost impact. Do you have a number as far as how much you lose a
Numbers can range anywhere from a couple $100,000 to a very high significant number.
Is that per year to your
That
company
is
specifically?
per year. I can't speak to our company. We tend to more focus on our homeowners. And as an industry, the Calgary Home Builders Association can provide more information in relation to that.
Is there a difference when one of your homes gets vandalized and when one gets broken into to steal stuff? Is there any difference?
As how we treat it,
And how it feels and,
to us, it's a very negative experience. I am the one who usually receives a report that something has happened. Vandalism or theft, there is damage done to the home. If they're stealing appliances, they're dragging them across the flooring. So then we have flooring to remove. They bang holes in the walls. We have holes to make repairs in. This affects the home. This is somebody's dream. We all are looked at as an industry of, we're in the business to make money, of course. Builders, we build homes. We build dreams. That's the message we really want people to know. What happened to Calvin, it means something to us as a building group, not just me as Jamin representative, but our industry as a whole. What happened to Calvin was shared across the board with all my building partners. And that affects all of us. And it makes us all more diligent when we're out there to keep an eye on it, to ensure not just my homeowners, but other homeowners within my industry are protected.
Are home building costs going up because of this?
No.
Because you're talking about extra security, and is the public not paying for this?
Is the public going to have to pay for the venture?
Are costs going to go up because of it?
We control costs very tight when we build our homes. Again, we have to have an affordable product. So this is why we're here, to try and prevent this from being an issue where it will start driving the cost of homes up.
well, it sounds like a very large number to me. Like, that's almost one a day, you know, where break-in slash vandalism, it sounds quite rampant.
The number you received are the incidences that are reported. Not all incidences are reported.
So it's even higher.
I would say it's higher.
The question was asked about the dollar figures, but the other side of that is if you guys are, as Calvin, had to deal with 4 to 6 weeks of waiting, even longer. I know the extent of damages can be, you know, from a week to 6 weeks, but on average, you put an average as to how long a homeowner might be out that house as well, and how much extra work is going into making sure that the house is fixed.
Unfortunately, Calvin's example is an extreme where it delayed his possession date. We hope that we responded to his family in a proper manner to ensure that the impact was lessened as much as we could and as much as what we had control of. Typically, when damage is done to a home, we pull all of our resources in to ensure that the possession date does not change and that the homeowner does not even see the damage when they come see the home. We do not want that dream to be impacted. We do not want them to feel that they were invaded.
Industry-wide, what would you like to see, for example? Are you communicating regularly with other companies on this issue? Are you collaborating with them? Are you trying to get them to do that with you?
We communicate on a daily basis. As field people, my superintendents, they communicate with the other superintendents from other people in the industry. Myself, as the safety auditor for Jamin, I communicate provincially with all the safety auditors. We all have our organizations that we belong to, and we try to make sure that that information is shared at all times.
I presume you're not new to this, but what's your sense on this? Is it the problem getting worse? Is it the same as it's always been? Does it tie into the housing booms in the city?
I think what it is complacency. People think that it's okay to buy things off of Kijiji without wondering, why am I buying a brand new fridge from a house that's 50 years old? We have to stop the complacency. The impact is people. It's taken out of a community. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to build safe communities as builders. And if we make these communities we're building an unfavorable place for criminal activity, when we finally are finished doing what we do, we're handing over a community that's safe, that is educated about what to watch for, what's strange, what's not strange, what doesn't fit, so that maybe we can start bringing that community feeling a little bit tighter once we're done our process of business.
Are the numbers higher here in Calgary than they are anywhere else?
No.
So it's everywhere.
It's throughout the province, yes.
Does, when you, like in Calvin's example, when you have to spend an extra month repairing something that was supposed to be done by a certain date, does that impact your other operations? Like having to put a crew of 10 in there to work on his house for a a month that could be working on another house? Like, does that slow down your other operations?
Of course, there's only a certain amount of available trades, but the process is the homeowner that has possession is the priority. And Calvin passed his possession date, so we pulled all the resources we could to make sure we resolved the problem. It was significant damage that was done to his home.
But it is a priority, like in that case, you'd have to dedicate crews to that first, and even if it means moving them off other projects.
We work with our trade partners, and we ensure that they have the availability. We've had people come in after hours because to them it's important to hand over to Calvin, as an example, the same product he would have received if this didn't happen to his home.